the power range plus how I use that with the Fib extension. Let's get right into it. All right, so today we're talking about the power range. I'm going to lay out this. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and remove this. I'm going to go into detail about the power range and how I use it and how I use that with a Fib extension to help me with my strategy in determining the trend direction and which direction I'm going to use to take trades. Now, this is not the first video that I created about the power range. I made another one before, and I'll link that up there in this video and in the description below. But that video wasn't really that good, and so I wanted to go ahead and just make a whole nother video. I did get a question about it recently, so instead of pointing people to that horrible video that I made previously about the power range, and that was when I first kind of discovered it, and I was getting used to it and trying to figure everything out with it and how I could use it, or if I was even going to use it, as part of my actual strategy. That was back then, but now that I've learned a lot about it and gained a lot of experience with it and how I like to use it and how it's been useful for my trading and my strategy, decided I'm just gonna go ahead and make another video, and that's this video right here. So let me stop with the setup and let's get right into it. All right, I don't know why I said let's get right into it, because we way past right into it, so let's just get to it. There we go. All right, so the power range. So what is the power range? Okay, and this is my term for the power range. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put that straight out from it's not a magic secret indicator or anything like that. It's just something that I'm not the only one to use this kind of method for looking at price action, because it's just based off price action and the price structure. But where I got it from, I go into detail a little bit, within later on in the video about where it actually came from. Once I, get into more of explaining what this power range is and how I come up with it and how it works and all that good stuff. So it's just the term. I just call it the power range just because I don't know why I came up with that term for it, but that's just what I call it. All right. So now that that's out the way, that is, it's nothing special about the name or anything like that. All right, so now that that's out the way, so what exactly is the power range? And for me, the way that I do it is it's just the first hour of the futures session, right? So for whatever I'm trading, it's that first hour. So for NQ, the NQ market, or the market for NQ, that the futures market that NQ resides in, it starts at 1800 or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day, Sunday through Thursday. All right, so it's only the power range is the price structure between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., which is the first hour of the futures session for that day. All right, so the way that I do this, and I'm just going to plot this on this graph right here, or on the chart right here. All right, so just going off the first hour, we're just looking at this is today's price action, or this is today's session. This red line right here is the session break for trading view. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that so we can see the chart a little bit better and we can, see what we need to see. All right, so now that we got all the extra noise off the chart, we're just looking at the price action right now. And I'm going to go ahead and move I'm going to keep the volume there too, because I'm going to use that later. All right, so looking for 1800, and there we go right there. So this is a 3-minute chart, and the easiest, simplest way to get this to get the range is to go to an hourly chart, since we're looking at the first hour. Let me go ahead and add some other drawings in there I need to go ahead and get rid of. All right, so today's session, January 26th, should be 1800 right there. So that's that candle. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mark off the high and the low for this first hour candle right here for today's future session. And it's not going to be exact. It doesn't have to be exact. These levels that I'm going to create using this power range is basically to be looked at as like little ranges, right? So it doesn't have to be, it's not an exact science. It doesn't just have to be right on the line. It can be off, for by a few ticks or points. You really don't want it off by, a few points, but a few ticks is fine. All right, so get the high of it. Like I said, it's not going to be exact, and that's perfectly okay. I'm going to use, actually, I should have kept it to where it was. All right, and the low, let me go ahead and mark off the low somewhere in there. That's close enough. Now I'm gonna go ahead and zoom into the 3 minute, and let me go ahead and auto scale this. All right, so I hope we can, let me go ahead and also, I should have prepared a little better for this. Apologies in advance. I want you to be able to see the lines. So let me go ahead and change the width. All right, so that should show up a little bit better. All right, so here's our power range. And also what I'm gonna do is throw this in here so we can clearly see what we're looking at. All right, so from right there. All right, so we're just gonna make it that simple for right now. Okay, that will work. All right, so this is our power range, and it's for the whole session. It's for the entire session. So every day, like at least after 8 p.m., I'll go ahead. It doesn't matter as long as I have that piece of information, the time frame from. And let me go ahead and mark off 1900 here. So long as I have the open enough of information, or as long as I have the price action or the price structure for the open of the session until 1900, that's all the information I need. I can go ahead and apply out my power range, and then I can just see how price reacts to the power range from there. All right, so with this alone, of course, you can make strategies based off of this. For me, what I've seen, studying the power range for several months, I don't remember when it's probably been almost close to a year. I'm a few months off from a year because I started this at the beginning of the pandemic last year when I was kind of forced into looking at a different way to do my technical analysis, and I started working on a different strategy. I started setting up a different strategy. So that's how I actually ran into the power range. Also, I was watching a video where they don't do it. It's kind of the same information, and it's a popular way to trade futures, especially when you're using I think it's the market profiles, or mostly volume, and the delta and all that stuff. So I've seen those traders. Those are the ones who kind of use this information, but not from the open of the future session, but from the open of the New York Stock Exchange session, right? So from 0930 until, like, some do it within that first 30 minutes, which is another way that I apply the power range, is using the first 30 minutes. So from 0930 to 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is that New York Stock Exchange session, time period. And so that's the second way that I would do it, but I don't use it that way anymore. I just, I applied it off from the future session at 1800, the start of the future session, that I applied off from the first hour of that day. All right, so I done said that enough. So now we know what the power range is, so I don't have to keep talking about that. So I'm not going to mention that anymore throughout the rest of this video. So this one doesn't become another horrible video like the first one I made about the power range. That one was kind of, yeah, I watched that myself, and it was a tough one to watch. But anyway, all right, so getting back to this. So this is all the power range is. That's all it is. It's just the first hour of the future session, right? So from this, you can actually start, if you do the study, if you do the work on it, and you look back and you back test it, there is some strategies. This wouldn't be my sole strategy. I have worked on ways to make, to see if this could be the only thing that I could use to, for a strategy. And personally, I wouldn't only use this for putting together a strategy. I use it with a conjunction of things to put together a complete strategy. So like this can help you with, or this helps me with trend direction for determining what side of the market has control, whether it's the bulls or the bears, and as well as like mean reversion, right? So I do it. It gives me a basis point from where I can, okay, this is the structure, and this, I have this to work from, right? It's like the foundation of a house. This is like the foundation of the technical analysis part of my strategy, right? So honestly, like this just makes things a lot easier to see, the price structure and what we're capable of doing, from the rest of the day in terms of trend direction. You can actually look at other, you can just look at the price structure in itself and, still get a similar, still get like a similar type of information, because what we're going to do with this also is we're going to add the Fibonacci extension. All right. And I have that set up a certain way. And so the power range, I use it for trend direction and to help me determine which direction I'm going to take a trade in. So whether I'm going to trade it long or if I'm going to trade it short. And the Fibonacci extension, that has a part to do in, which direction I take a trade in. So basically, just from the power range alone, within the power range, this is neutral. So we can trade in either direction, just looking at the power range alone. Within the power range, it's a neutral zone, right? So once we break either the high or the low, that kind of gives us, it can help give us an idea of which direction the market or the, whatever you're trading is likely to continue trading, right? So since you see right here, we broke the low of it and we kept, hanging around the low. And you can also, I've been looking at this lately too. You can look at the, the 50% piece of it. That can give you some information as well. So you can see we retrace 50% of it and then we continue to trade lower. So if I'm just looking at this from the power range alone, I'm looking at, okay, I'm going to favor the bearish side if I'm looking to take a trade, right? I'm also like, again, this is not going to be my only thing that I'm going to look at, because there's some more. You got to understand, you have to also zoom out and look. Well, I'm not going to say you can do what you want to do. The way that I do it, I also want to zoom out and make sure I understand the bigger picture. This is just a short term, like intraday time frame way of looking at the market. But you also got to look at it from, well, I like to look at it from a bigger perspective. So I like to zoom out and get the bigger picture, whether that's on the hourly chart or the daily chart or whatever, right? And then I'll make my, trade determinations based off of that. All right, so now we know what the power range is, and we have an understanding of how I use it. So the next thing that I add into the power range is the Fibonacci extension. All right, so I have my Fibonacci extension set up a certain way, and all I'm really using the Fibonacci extension for is to help me determine entries and targets. That's it. That's the only thing I'm using the Fibonacci extension for. Also, from my study of the power range and how I use it, it also helps me to determine when a trend has reversed, right? So since I'm an intraday position trader, pretty much, if let's say, we're looking at this right here and we get down to some support to where, we can expect some bulls to come in, right? Now, being a position trader, I'm looking to, trade with this trend. However, I know since we're so far away from our mean, I know I don't want to, take any trades short. And if you want to see an example of how I would trade this, just look at the live stream I did this morning, and that's exactly what I would do. So this is a good thing that I decided to make this, in the same day, because that I did a live stream, because you can actually see how I will use this, power range based off of what I'm about to tell you. All right. So I wouldn't be looking for, just as a position trader, I would not be looking to, to jump in if we take a break lower. What I would like to happen is to get some consolidation or at least some pullback so that I can get into, this position, stand with the momentum, stand with the trend, get into this position at a good price, to where I'm able to put the probabilities in my favor and get another opportunity to, play the position short, right? Like, so now also, like I said before, I'm also looking at the daily, and I have a lot of reasons to continue with this trend if we get a pullback. So that's just a real quick picture of the way that I would use the Fibonacci extension with the power range. So let's go ahead and plot the Fibonacci extension. All right, so just in here in trading view, it's kind of different the way I set it up in Sierra chart, but it's really the same thing. All right, so I use the same high and low levels to plot my Fibonacci extension. It doesn't matter where I put it because the range that I'm using for the Fibonacci extension is going to be the same throughout the whole session of the day, right? So it doesn't, I can put this anywhere. I can put it right here. I can put it, over here. It doesn't matter. So I do it for both sides. So this is going to set me up for the short side. All right, and this is the Fibonacci extension study. Our drawing, see right here, trend-based Fib extension. Okay. All right. So now I have it set up here. So you see I have my levels here. So let's go ahead and look at what the levels are set to. And it's really simple. All right. It's very, very simple. I don't make this any more complicated than it has to be. Just reference this quote right here. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. All right. So that's a little quote that kind of matches what I'm talking about as well. So I want to keep this very simple. So what I did, right, just to get this is based off of my studies and everything. We're not going to look at the retracement part of this Fib extension tool, right? We're going to look at the extension part. So really simply, I'm using 0.618, right? So in other platforms, another, like in Sierra chart, I believe is 6.18, or let me see. Let me look at this real quick. Okay, so it's 61.8%. So in Sierra chart, you got to know which platform you're using to be able to understand how to plot the Fibonacci extension based off how I got it, right? All right, the differences between the platforms. All right, so it's just based off of 61.8%. So that's all I'm using, is 61.8%, and I'm extending that a point, right? So I'm using the 1.618 line, the 2.618 line, the 3.618 line, 4.6, and I think you get it at this point, right? Very simple. There's nothing super complicated about this. And honestly, you can go as far out as you want to go. For me, I go 5 levels out, because that's where I start to see, once we get to like that 5th level, that 5th key level, then the trend usually doesn't go beyond that. Now on a strong day like today, where before the New York Stock Exchange opened, we had already exceeded that limit, and we've been pretty much trading below that the whole morning, right, or the whole trading day. So this is how I have my Fibonacci extension set up, right? You can also use the 50. You can also look at the 50% line, which I think tells you some decent information, whether that's for trend continuation or a trend reversal, or if you're trying to trade on like the main reversion side of the game. I think the 50% also tells some decent information depending on the price action for that day and how volatile things are for that day. So like I say all the time, all strategies work, just not all the time. So sometimes this information is going to be very, very valuable to you. Sometimes it's not going to be valuable to you. You just kind of have to take it for however. If you use this information, you just got to take it for however you see it and however it works for you, and just stay consistent with it. So the name of the trading game, just real quick, just a quick side note, is consistency, right? So consistency beats out everything else when we're talking about trading. So in order to be profitable over an extended period of time, what's going to get you there is just staying consistent to whatever it is that you're doing. All right, so that's really everything there is to the Fibonacci, or to the power range, and how I use the Fibonacci extension as part of my strategy. So as part of my strategy, it's the technical analysis part of the strategy, and also it helps me to determine like entries and targets, like I said before. So let's just take this little piece right here. All right, so let's just go ahead and set up an example for, we're gonna look at, let's see where I want to look. Okay, we're gonna go back and look at this area right here. All right, so we're gonna use hindsight capital to illustrate this example. All right, here we go. So let's say I'm looking at this, and this is, let's just pretend that this is live, and I'm watching this. Let me get one more candle in there, and I see this. So now I don't want to jump in. Let's just say, for illustration purposes only, let's just say I'm looking at this and I want to take this trade. I want to get in on some of this action right here, but I don't want to take the break. I don't want to get, I feel like this would be getting in late, so I want to put I want to go in short once we come back to this level right here, which is this on this yellow line, right? That's the 1.618 or the 61 or the 161.8% line, or the level, based off the power range. All right, so let's say I want to use this as my entry. Let me go ahead and let it play. Go ahead and place an entry order, a limit order right there to get in on a trade. And let's say that triggers us in right there. All right, so let's say we got triggered in right there, and it happened a little too fast for me. All right, there we go. I wish this would have. All right, so let's say I got triggered in right here on this candle, okay? Because usually it's very possible that I would have got triggered in on this play, because I don't usually, like I said before, I look at these as ranges, and I don't usually place my orders directly on the line. Now I also use other information such as the volume profiles, and I made another video about the volume profiles that I'm going to link in this video as well. It's in the description. Also should pop up somewhere, up here in this video. But I also look at the volume profiles, and I also look at the price structure. The price structure is always the first thing that I'm looking at in terms of, making determinations on where I want to get in and out of the trade, whether that's support and resistance or that's pivot points, right? So getting back to this example, let's say I got triggered in right there to go short. Now if I want to look for a target, right, and this is not my exact strategy because I have multiple targets, but I do take this information into consideration, right? So if I want to look for a target, if I took this short and I want to look for a target, I can look at this next level right here as a target, okay? Based off what I've studied in the past and how I back tested this, for me, this is kind of a high probability trade, just looking at the structure and then using these levels that I've defined in the Fibonacci extension. I have found some consistency with these levels and how the price likes to react to these levels in conjunction with the power range. Other levels work as well. So again, it's just something that, you don't have to use. If you want to use this information, this is why I'm putting it on YouTube. So this can be part of your strategy, that you're putting together yourself. If you find if this resonates with you in any way, you can use this, feel free. But you don't have to use the same levels. You can use it at other levels. It just depends on what you're trading and how much you've studied it, and what makes the most sense for you, right? So getting back to the example, let's say I got my entry there, I got filled in there, and I want to use the target there. So let's see how that plays out. And again, I wouldn't have my target directly on this line. I would have it somewhere in a range that makes sense based off of structure and the volume profiles, or volume, right? So you can see there that we're able to easily hit our target if we would have taken that trade. And when you see this play out, you can continue to use a strategy like that, throughout the whole day. All right, so that's all I really wanted to point out about the power range, and just kind of to make it 100% clear. Like I said, I put these Fibonacci extensions in both directions. So that was to the short side, and this one would be to the long side, just to put all the information in there, how I would set up the power range. All right, So now you can see we got levels bullish of the power range and levels bearish of the power range. All right, so that's all the power range really is. It's just a really simple way of looking at the price structure based on, you know, the time of the futures session for that day, right? So I do this every single day. You know, I plot a new power range every single day, put my Fib extensions on top of that, and then with all the other things that I use the power range and the Fib as kind of the base of my strategy for determining trend direction, the direction that I'm going to trade in, how aggressive I'm going to be, you know, based off of how far the price is away from the power range by the time that, you know, I start trading, and, you know, just looking for entries and targets. All right, so I actually get a lot of valuable information from me personally from the power range. So like I said before, if if this makes sense to you and you see something valuable in it, by all means, now you know exactly what the power range is and how I set it up. It was never a secret. I always put it in, you know, I've talked about it several times, just here and there during live streams or in other videos, and it's all over my journal. So by the way, if you want to see my journal, if this is your first time watching the videos, or if you haven't looked at the journal before, there's a lot of information inside of that journal, not just from my trading, but other information that I got from other sources. As I continue to learn and grow, a lot of information, a lot of valuable information is in that journal. Just head on over to nv3trader.com. Matter of fact, we can do that while we're here. Right, nv3trader.com. Go over to the journal tab and just click this big red button. Now, a little bit of this needs to be updated because, yeah, this is round one. And anyway, I'm not going to get sidetracked by that. So a little bit of heads up. This is going to change. It's changing in the future. So, it's still going to be free access to everybody, but it's just going to change a little bit the way that I have it laid out here. But as of right now, if you want to go to the journal, just go to the journal tab, click this big red button, and it'll take you to the journal, which is hosted on Notion, on the Notion app. All right. So that's everything that I wanted to talk to you about the power range. You have the full information about it now. If you want to use it, feel free. I get a lot of valuable information from it, so maybe it can help you out too with your strategy. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. See y'all on the next one. Trade it easy.